on communicating science. This is the narrated PowerPoint on the Advancing Science, a Survey of Science Communicators essay. So with this article in Advancing Science, a survey of science communicators, the authors make the argument that, again, we have this educated public should be better equipped to choose from among competing technical arguments. And so here we're not just simply talking about, or the authors are not simply arguing that the public should be able to read and understand scientific and technically based information, but to read competing arguments and to be able to make a decision. You can see some of these different types of topics that they've listed here are certainly ones that may concern us not only on a day-to-day basis, but also in terms they may influence how that we might vote on, for a representative who takes a particular stance on these issues. And so, again, this comes back to the idea that the ancient Greeks had about the responsibility that the individual has to be responsible for your culture, for your nation, in the sense of being well informed enough so that you can vote intelligently on issues. That means that we talk about education being a lifelong process, and certainly it is. But it's not just something that applies to our jobs. It also applies to our day-to-day lives, and it applies to the time and effort it takes to read materials that will better inform us about issues so that we can make those rational personal choices. Now, something that the authors bring out is that a problem in terms of doing this is that the group of writers that we've been dependent upon in the recent past, we'll say since World War II anyway, have been journalists. And there's nothing wrong with that as an option for reading about science and technology, but there's also some problems with it. One you have is how much scientific training that the editors have to allow them to make well-reasoned decisions about articles that they're going to run and how they're going to edit them. And then you have the problems with priorities of the media versus priorities of science. We live in a capitalist culture, and there's lots of we hear lots of controversy about the media these days. But the thing is that for a news organization to exist in a capitalist culture, they've got to be able to sell newspapers or advertising space on news programs or on websites or what have you. So, whatever the medium may be. And so, in terms of the priorities, when you have this type of scenario, the reporter who is breaking stories is the one who is on the cutting edge of reporting news. But that's not necessarily what's going to be helpful in terms of reporting science, because stories have to be followed up on. With what we were talking about in some of the previous slides with stem cell research, Dolly the sheep made the covers of Time and Newsweek in 1997. About 7 years later, when Prometea, the first horse that was born through a cloning procedure, there was hardly any coverage. Prometea didn't make either Newsweek or Time. She was in some of the newspapers. A newspaper like the Washington Post actually had a longer article about it than the New York Times. And we think, well, we can kind of see the reasoning, and the way that the editors are spinning it, yeah, it is more likely to make the Post because the Post is the newspaper for Washington, D.C. And so you're going to have more people who are going to be reading it who are decision makers on stem cell research, senators and representatives and so forth, and others, bureaucrats. But it was interesting to me that while the New York Times covered the birth of Prometea, it was a much shorter article than the one that was in the Washington Post. So, and then problems with magazine journalism, where we've had some of the best science writing in the last 50 years or so, has tended to be in news magazines. Well, the news magazines are kind of going under. I don't know if there'll be any type of renaissance or not. They say there won't be. It'll depend upon what people are interested in buying. But when a big magazine like Newsweek or something like that goes under, then it's difficult to bring it back. So, and so the question becomes, well, who's going to step into the and take the reins of responsibility for explaining science? Well, very often it could be people who are being trained in scientific and technical communication programs and will be writing for on the internet. Maybe it could be for a magazine or for a newspaper or some other entity. Questions? I'll see you online.